Greetings and salutations, friends. My name is, of course, Charles Q. Banks, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Charles Anime Episode Summary and Review. And this time, it's of Kimetsu no Yaiba, Episode 8. I just watched it, and I've got to say, I am probably the most happy with this episode out of all of the previous episodes I have watched, because it didn't tick me off in terms of logic. When you look into this episode, you find answers instead of more questions as to the lay of the land, the world building. Everything's pretty solid in this episode, so I'm pretty excited to get into it. So the episode starts off with a recap, which, again, not my favorite thing, but it's very quick, just telling what happened at the very end of the last episode, which was that Tanjiro found the main villain of the story, finally. The plot meandered quite a bit. He became a demon slayer, and now he's finally meeting with Muzan Kibutsuji, I think his name is, the white fedora hat wearing man, who is quite interesting. I love his voice actor. He can be both like loving and soft and caring and like an English gentleman almost, and then on the other hand be an absolute monster, quite the psycho. So they're the psychopaths in this anime have increased at least by a factor of 3, which I am very happy about so far. So after the introduction happens, and after, the whole thing with the young man, getting turned into a demon by Muzan and attacking his own girlfriend, Tanjiro, of course, does leap into action. He does not draw his sword, however. He is far too compassionate about that, to do that. He actually takes off his hood and stuffs it in the guy's mouth, which makes a lot of sense. And the police come, try to get Tanjiro to let go of the guy on the ground. And he's like, no, if I let go, he'll kill you. I don't want anyone to, Anyway, you get the idea. And so there's the struggle going on, and in the meantime, Muzan and his little human family get away, of course. And there's like a very classic, almost hilarious, comedically classic shot where Tanjiro is in a spotlight and Muzan is in the spotlight. Everything else is dark, and they're moving away from each other dramatically. And it's like, wow, going back to some old, like, 50s style cinematography stuff going on, and I love it. It's great. And this is something I like about anime in general. Anime tends to do things that movies and westerns and, modern film just won't do, which is go back to the past and bring back these weird relics that you don't use very much anymore because they're now considered kooky or old-fashioned. Anime uses whatever comes to mind, and same thing with manga. And from all eras, from almost all ethnicities and cultures, anime, the Japanese, do very well in integrating and ingratiating their media with interesting techniques from all different nations. I love that. So once Muzan and Tanjiro are now separated, Tanjiro turns around very dramatically, fitting the rest of the scene, and yells out into the distance towards Muzan, who is fading into the crowd, I will chase you to hell and back, basically, and I am going to cut off your head, which is like, whoa, Tanjiro! But it's fitting. He can't do anything right now, so he is yelling at Muzan, we will meet again. It's classic, and I didn't expect that Tanjiro would have the wherewithal to even do that. And Muzan is definitely affected by this, which is great. And he, later on, goes to his own ruffians and tells them and sicks them on Tanjiro, but not after killing an entire group of friends. 3 people, drunk people in a back alley, after, of course, putting his child and wife into a carriage to go off home safely. He goes and gets stopped by some drunken kids, and he kills the lot of them. The one he just punches in the face, and it causes the brick wall behind the kid to smash, blood to be splattered upon the wall, showing he is totally dead. And then his giant of a brother, like probably 6 foot or something. Knowing Japan, he's probably like 5'8", but he kicks him into the air so far up that it just kills him outright. And it's kind of a funny thing. He shoots up into midair, coughs down, and it like rains down on the remaining civilian who's still alive, the female of the group, who is, very shook up about the death of the man who died, and then the body falls. It's almost comedic in its horrible aspect, these murders. And then with her, he comes down to her and is like, "Do I look dead to you?" And he starts monologuing in his psychotic way, and he sticks, this is the grossest thing ever, he sticks his fingernail into her forehead, pumping blood into her until her cells are unable to handle the transformative power that is in Muzan's demon blood, and she liquefies into a horrifying fleshy mass. And that's some actual horror stuff going on now. Before, it was just creepy stuff and weird monsters. Now it's like cranked up to 11, and I mean, you don't like horror, but you appreciate, like I said before, the depths of darkness and depravity that are being shown are extreme, and we have to have extreme light to combat it, extreme good to fight the evil of the darkness. And we're being shown some depths of depravity that we have not yet seen in this anime. While Tanjiro is fighting with the police, fighting with the demon, there is literal magical flowers. A flow of flowers comes through the crowd, and everyone notices. It's not like this is metaphorical or anything. This is real. Everyone can see it. It's happening. It has the ability to separate people, and Tanjiro is separated from the group by the flowers. Out of the crowd comes this pale, very traditional-looking young Japanese woman with those very pupilless, beautiful blue eyes that I've talked about. She's been through some stuff, and I knew that when I saw her, but I didn't know how true that was. But just because of the way her eyes are drawn, you know that she has wisdom, that she has gone through some real business. And she has her young assistant or guardian with her, and she says, "I am a doctor." And he's like, "But aren't you?" And she's like, "Yes, I am a demon, but I am also a doctor who takes care of both demons and humans who have been struck with the demon illness." And so she takes the demon and the young woman into her care. And the only strange thing, logically, that I couldn't really understand about this episode is the fact that everyone sees the magic, everyone acknowledges it, but no one is shown to be absolutely shocked and enthralled. This isn't going to become some huge news thing that gets out. Maybe people in this world are far more aware of magic and demons than our world is, and then they let on. So that gives credence to what I was saying before about this whole series, which is that the slashes of Tanjiro's blade, which cause this trail of water and of waves, all of the different effects that we've seen on Tanjiro's blade are actually real magic that are causing damage. We saw that in episode 6, when Tanjiro did a downward slam onto the ground, and water burst up from the ground, through the ground, through the demons that were on the ground, and causing damage to them. So, yeah, it's real magic going on here, guys. It's not just visual flair. So after that, Tanjiro returns to the udon place, the place where he ate what I called ramen, but it's actually udon. Sorry, sumanai, I couldn't really tell the difference. And I'm sure he probably said udon at the time, but I wasn't paying attention. Udon and ramen are slightly similar, but I couldn't really tell. So he ate udon, started eating udon before he dropped it, and I love the fact that in this next scene, the owner of the udon shop comes out and is berating him when he returns and is like, "You didn't eat the whole bowl and you broke the bowl, and what's wrong with you, and what's wrong with you?" And he points to Nezuko, who didn't eat any because she has a freaking bamboo stick in her mouth. And he's like, "What is that in your mouth? Use these chopsticks. Use them." And Tanjiro's like, "All right, I'll buy 2 bowls." And he eats them both. And the udon shopkeeper is basically he's basically Saitama. He's totally bald, wearing a yellow outfit, and it's just kind of funny, the similarity between these two. And he's so passionate about his udon, and I was like, yes, the death of that udon did not go unpunished or forgotten. So apparently he and Nazeko got together again. They didn't go into this separation arc where he has to go and find Nezuko again. He just goes back to the udon shop, and there she is, and they are reunited. So much for my theory about kidnappings and him having to go and save her again. So then the Guardian that we saw before, the young boy who was sticking to the side of the demon doctor, comes and summons Tanjiro to the doctor, brings him and Nezuko through a secret passage of fake bricks. And like I said before, there's a definite similarity to some of the things in Zelda Ocarina of Time, in which there are like the lens of truth item that can see through fake walls, and you can just walk through fake walls. Well, here there's a fake wall that leads to a mansion, a secret mansion of the demon doctor woman. And so they go in there, and something interesting is there's a whole lot more comedy in this episode. It's strange. There are comedy episodes, which also have, really dark, horrible things happening in them anyway. And then there are non-comedy episodes, which may or may not have dark, horrible things happening in them. And so there's this definite tone shift going on from episode to episode. The tone shift doesn't take place in the episodes. It takes place, from episode to episode, which is a strange way to do it, especially considering that the darkest and most murderous stuff that we see in this series has happened in this episode, with people getting, their brains scooped out and turning into piles of mush. It's pretty gross, and the intensity of the evil of the villain, Muzan, is really being, they're really trying to be impactful with it. And yet we're getting a lot of that, good shonen comedy thing going on at the same time. So I don't know how much I like it. I don't dislike it, but it's just kind of, it's kind of weird, Just like I've said before, in Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and the manga, they had that same issue of like horrible things happening, and then the cartoony artwork coming in and the artistry changing its style completely to fit the comedy portion of it. And, you can have comedy in your show, but to change the style of artwork is a little over the top. So that's just my opinion. They meet the doctor again. Her name is Tomoya, which is very similar to Tomio from Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, who was also a doctor who helped people who were of an illness that had to do with demons and gods. Something very similar going on. And it turns out that she's been a demon for 200 years and has been modifying her own body and that of her guardian, Yushio, so that they might be able to live as demons without having to eat human beings. And she's been taking the blood from blood donors, thinking that it's going to, at just causes, people who need it, and going to them. Just taking small bits of blood, I guess daily, weekly, I'm not sure, but very small bits of blood, very much like Twilight. I hate to reference that horrible debacle of modernity, but it's just like Twilight. It's just like how Edward used to be a, Edwardian doctor and tried to keep people from dying. And when people were close to death, he would ask them, "Do you want to live on? And are you sure you want to take on being a vampire?" And some would say yes, and some would say no and die. So this woman has been keeping people alive by sometimes turning them into demons. And she has been looking deep into the question as to whether demons can be turned back into humans for a long time. So Tanjiro has come to the exact right place, and she is actually a logical character, the first one that we've ever met, who is going into the specifics of why Nezuko has been in a coma for 2 years, what happened to her during those 2 years, and what it is that makes her different from all of the rest of the demons, who would usually go on a crazy rampage by now, if not die. And so there's something to her to Nezuko, that this doctor might be able to use to synthesize a cure for the demon virus, the demon cells, the demon blood, whatever it is that Muzan gives to people in order to turn them into his demonic slaves, or at least just into demons and monsters. We have another plot line firmly established. We're now into the next arc, and it's not just going after Muzan. It's figuring out the way to cure Nezuko by Tanjiro going and accepting the quest which the doctor gives her. It's very video gamey, the way that this is explained. But the doctor tells him, "Will you take on the quest to go and find the blood of other demons who are connected to the bloodline of Muzan and bring them back here so that I can synthesize a cure?" He says yes, but then 2 seconds don't go by before minions of Muzan attack the very place where the doctor and Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Yushio are hiding. And it's very easy, I guess, because the demons that are shown are very new demons. They're like high-level creatures that aren't just monsters. They have multiple, abilities that they can use. One of them is someone which is a classic trope of like creepy monster assistants or minions, is that one of them has eyes on his hands. His eyes are in his hands, and those hands have strange eyes in them as well. It's not just normal eyes. They have arrows in them, which point to where a path is, or sees where someone's footsteps lie and where they are pointing and where they went, and all these things. So through that, they're able to find where the doctor's mansion is, hidden though it may be. And the other demon girl, they both have very interesting designs and very distinct, detailed designs, which I also like. And there's a girl who has an old-style rubber ball. Once again, very authentic Japanese style going on here. And she uses it to throw it through buildings. She has such strength, she's able to throw it right through the wall of the mansion, and it probably could have killed them straight off, but Yushio was able to detect with his demonic powers, because he's a demon too, that the ball was coming, and they ducked down and were able to get away from that first deadly volley. And that's basically where this episode ends, and it ends with a freeze frame nonetheless, of Tanjiro and Nezuko looking through the hole at the two demons dramatically, and what they're going to do next. So the pace has increased, actually, despite the fact that there's a lot of exposition in this episode. Dialogue can be exciting, especially for me, especially when it's actually pertaining to the plot that has been just gone around and not mentioned for almost seven episodes. And so I'm very happy about that. They still didn't explain or talk about the stinking bamboo shoot and why she still has it in her mouth. I just think that the author of this manga and the creators of the anime just wanted this girl to have a gag in her mouth for whatever reason. Either it's a fetish or just an aesthetic preference. I don't know. Maybe they want their women to be silent. I don't know. I don't like it. I want this character to be fully fleshed out, and they can't be fully fleshed out unless they talk. So I can't wait to hear Nazeko, or I always say Nazeko, but I want to hear Nezuko speak, and hopefully that will happen soon. And maybe she will actually be cured before the end of this anime. I don't know, but we will definitely be seeing a battle between Tanjiro, Yushio, and these two very interesting demon types in the next episode. So, all in all, I could have gone into a little bit more depth. The comedy is like I never really laughed at it. I only really chuckled at the udon guy who is so passionate about his udon. But the rest of it is Yushio being like really jealous over the doctor woman whom he is infatuated with. He's that jealous type who just strikes, on Tanjiro whenever he looks at his girl wrong. And the first time it was kind of interesting and funny and weird. The next 6 times it's like, okay, I get it. It's a recurring joke. Yeah, you're gonna do it again. But anyway, this episode was like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. I liked it just as much as episode 5, if not more. A lot more happened in this episode than happened in episode 5, and it really feels like Hunter x Hunter now. The villain reminds me of the villain in Kurapika's arc. I can't remember his name right now, but someone who is in control and has ridiculous power and has this very like narcissistic power in his possession that he keeps under control, at least most of the time. Yeah, I'm interested now in where this show is going. I've been very hesitant about this show. I've been very critical of it for good reason. I am never going to let go of my critical eye, and I don't think anyone should. Appreciating logic and figuring out where logic has been challenged, and trying to see where things could have been done better and what has been done worse, and etc., etc. So, if you like these episodes, please leave a comment, a like, subscribe, and push that notification bell to see more episodes like this. I'll be getting on to the next episode very soon. So, until then, thanks for watching, and farewell.